Welcome back to Voices of Impact, where we explore leadership beyond strategy and performance and into identity, alignment, and a kind of impact that lasts. So, in each episode, we bring you conversations with leaders, creators, and change makers who are redefining success and showing what authentic leadership really looks like. Because behind every powerful brand and bold voice and every woman who truly commands a room, there's often something deeper happening, and that's the identity shift, right? And today's conversation invites us into a question that might completely change how you see sales. So what if sales wasn't about convincing, but really about expression? So for all the entrepreneurs who are watching, right? So I'm so excited to welcome Bea Lopez to the show for a bold and refreshing conversation on voice, visibility, and selling from full self-expression. So Bea is an expression and sales coach who's redefining how women show up, right? Sell and feel in the process. So after 15 years in sales and being fired twice for being too outspoken, which I can totally relate because that happened to me, she chose not to shrink, but to expand. So she's such a powerhouse. I would love to. This is an exciting conversation, honestly. And she built a methodology that helps women fully express themselves, own their voice, and get paid for it, right? Because her work isn't just about sales. It's about identity. It's about presence and becoming the woman who naturally holds attention rather than chasing it. And what makes this conversation especially powerful is what we both believe in, right? That sales becomes easier when it's aligned with who you are as a person and your energy. And women don't need to tone down to be successful, which is a huge thing because that's what I used to learn, right? That's where I was from in a family. So I'm pretty sure a lot of ladies who are listening can relate to this. So today we're diving into how women can shift from performing in sales to fully expressing who they truly are. So welcome, Bea, to the show. So excited to
Thank
have you.
you. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Amazing. So let's get into it. And likewise, so you spent 15 years in sales before leaving corporate. What was the turning point that made you decide to step into helping women show up differently online?
Oh, Well, it wasn't like a just one moment, to be honest. It's been like a process. But 3 years ago, I was a manager, like a product manager in a company that I was working for. And it was kind of like a very outdated, male dominated company. And at some point in time, I was fired. Like the position wasn't a good fit for us, and it was fine. But then underneath all of that, they started making like these comments about myself, like my opinions, the way that I was acting in the office. And I was really surprised about it. And I was like, okay, fine. But like a month later, I started getting like really upset about it and really mad about the fact because I thought it was just everything so unfair. Like so many things that they took out of context. And anyways, and I just felt like attacked. Like I felt bad because, okay, so yeah, the position wasn't a good fit, but the problem actually was me.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was the problem. That's how I felt, even though logically I could use other arguments. And it led to me feeling like major imposter syndrome for so long and like losing my confidence when I went back into another sales job. And it really messed even things in my personal life because I started to be quiet about things, like holding my opinions, not to have an argument or not to be like too much and things like that. And I didn't realize I was doing this until like, very recently when I was like fired again for the same reasons. And I was like, okay, there is a pattern here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this time around, I was like, you know what? That's it. And this is it. And I'm not going to fall down for this anymore. And something came through me. And I was like, I need to change this. This is happening to so many women, like for sure. And I don't want that to happen anymore. So it has been actually a process of losing myself and finding myself again that has made me do this work now.
Wow, amazing. First of all, kudos to you. and for sharing your story and being vulnerable.
Yeah.
'Cause I know it's definitely difficult. I can relate to everything you're saying because I think people like women like us, who are like the go-getters, a little bit more outspoken. A lot of people label us as like, oh, she's too much, or we're just very misunderstood. Similar thing happened to me. I got fired for being outspoken because I was just really from a genuine place sharing my
Hmm.
opinion. And immediately we think it's like it's our fault or something's wrong with us. Like, why don't people like us? But sometimes I realize that, we should not be toning down who we are if it's come from a genuine place, right? We're just speaking about how we truly feel and that we don't feel seen and heard. And maybe it's just like the wrong environment and not like shrink ourselves, right? That we should be in an environment where we can be ourselves. And the fact that you saw the pattern is so important that a lot of women still now in corporate or even entrepreneurship, they still stay in that place. Okay, fine, I'm happy to shrink. But the fact that you're like, hey, women, like, we need to, like, ladies, like, show up differently, own ourselves, own our voice, own our power. And, if the corporate environment doesn't align, then we need to go to a different one, right? But don't, like, tone yourself down, right? And
Yeah.
that's a very important thing. And the fact that you went really honest with yourself, knew your pattern, and heck, I know what, I need to do something about it. And like you said, this is on me. And yeah, we can't keep going around blaming others, right? We need to figure out like, this is something in me that I need to focus on, right? So I love how you did that. Kudos to you.
Mhm.
This is such an important conversation, honestly speaking, because a lot of women just stay there thinking like, okay, well, things are going to get better. Maybe I'll get the promotion if I just like be submissive
Yeah.
about it, right? So absolutely. And going into, I know you live in Spain, which is amazing. I've been there before. And growing up in Spain and moving into global sales, how did your cultural background shape your approach to more power, presence, and persuasion?
Well, I think that one of the things that has shaped how I am and how I see the world is the fact that I've been very lucky to be able to live in another countries. Like I went to Canada when I was in high school. I lived 4 years in Switzerland after university. And when you are outside of your community, you see things with a lot of perspective and you find different people, different ways of like living your life, different opinions, and it gives you like it opens your mind so much, and you also see like kind of the flaws in your upbringing and your cultural like limiting beliefs maybe. So I think I'm very much open-minded comparing to a lot of people that I know, and that's why I have like this global vision that okay, I want to make an impact. I want to change women worldwide. While so many people that I know, they only want to have this like local impact, or they just want to go to work and do their work and that's it, which is fine. I'm not saying that's bad, but that's the only thing they know.
Right. Right.
So for me, it has changed a lot, like seeing the being able to be outside and being able to speak English, which has allowed to be mentored by people in the US or in the UK or whatever. So I have a much more like global general thinking of how the world works.
Mhm. Absolutely. I love that. And I love how you're just so open-minded. And I know like that's how we connected because I have similar things because when you talk to different types of people, and I love how
Mm.
you were like in Switzerland and Canada, and the ones who actually had that global experience were more open-minded, had different perspectives, and brought a lot to the table. And they had more like, yeah, like you said, you go through the patterns and you learn and grow. There's
Mm.
more growth. And I talk to a lot of people globally compared to the one in the US. And I love people here, but I just, when I talk to them, I just learn a lot more from those people who are like, whether they're in like India or Africa, Australia. And it's nice to see like the different perspectives. And that's how I also expanded recently my business into global because that's how we connected, right? And learning from you and we learn from each other. So it
Yeah.
brings more presence, right? And you feel like you can really expand that presence even more when you go into the global space, right? So I'm so, so happy for you on that. And also, my own mentor was from the UK, and I had mentors from the US, which it was lovely, but it didn't take me so far. But when
Hmm.
I looked at it from the UK perspective, it was very different. And my family said the same thing, right? Because my family were immigrants. So We all learn from each other. And whoever is listening, I would definitely take the time to have coffee chats, collaborate with people outside of your local community or your country in different countries, because it really leads to so much growth, right? So,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And one of the things I would add is like there is, I'm not gonna get into politics, but there is so much going on in the world, and normally the media they show you like just a tiny bit of what they think it's going on. So when you actually talk with someone that they are from that place, they give you another perspective. So that might change your mind instead of like judging the situation from your home, you know?
Exactly. And I do agree with that. There's a lot of times where, like, I think in the beginning, I wasn't as open minded. I think I can speak to a lot of people. We just think, like, oh, like, we listen to other people around us. We get influenced, like that person from India or that person from other countries. Like, I don't know what they're thinking. But when I was just like, let's try it, let's see what happens. My own team right now they're not in the US, they're global, right? So I learned a lot from them. It was very
Mm.
different. So, I think this goes into leading with your heart and your intuition. So don't have other people influence you, but just be open minded. There's nothing wrong. And your body will tell you if it's like right or wrong, if you're in the right place or not, right?
Yeah,
So go with your gut
for sure.
instinct. I realized, like, for me, it was a huge game changer to really expand my work, my presence, how I speak, like just connection with others outside of the US. And it's changed a lot for me. So, absolutely, I love that. And I'm also learning from you how you think about sales, because in the US, for me, when I was an entrepreneur, sales was all about pushing and pressure and
Mm.
performance. And that's how I learned it in the beginning, like a couple of years ago. And now from my UK person, and now from you who are very outside the US, you guys see sales as a very like presence, community, owning your voice, expression. So it's very different. And honestly, it works well too. But you get like your wealth, or you get more money, you get more opportunities this way.
Yeah.
So I want to get into that. So yeah, absolutely. I love that. Going into owning your voice, which is why we call this Voices of Impact. So I know we have something very similar, which is why I started Voices of Impact, to really help people not shrink that, right? And you say you activate women to use their voice and stop shrinking. So, what does holding attention or not shrinking actually look like in practice? If you can give an example, maybe even like in the entrepreneur
Yeah.
space.
For me, being someone that naturally has attention, it would be the person that you could enter a room and be quiet and have everyone be talking around you, being super loud. But then you just raise your hand and say what you think, and people go like, "Wow, yeah, yeah, she's right." That's what real attention and authentic visibility is for me. Is that people listen to you. You are a person of influence without having to be loud about it,
Right.
because you are like this grounded and collected person. Yeah, just people get magnetized by you because you are so confident in what you are saying, and you don't
Right.
need to raise your voice for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. It's really the presence, and we call it aura. That's something that I didn't understand in the beginning, right? But then now it's like it's really comes from within. I don't want to add that. So the reason why you're grounded, and we do the nervous system regulation
Hmm.
and all of that, because it comes from within. It's quiet confidence. So like I know like the both of us, for example, or any woman we see the powerhouse, they just don't be like, "Oh my God, I'm doing this. I'm amazing." It's more of like showing, right? More than telling. And it shows in the way you just show up, and you're confident, like you said, what you say, what you do, and who you are. So it comes down to your identity, right?
Yeah,
What you stand for, what your values are. And when you're very strong in your self-worth and who you are, that natural presence and that aura shines out. Like you don't even need to say a word. And that's where it all comes from. So it's absolutely the inner work. And that's what this conversation is about. 'Cause people think it's like, I think I need to like overperform or overgive or say so much. And that's what I used to do, right? That's what I thought, right? That was the societal conditioning. But in reality, it's just like knowing yourself within, really honing in on that and your power, right? So absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. And this is a question that this is really important, but especially for entrepreneurs, And when they have like strong offers and expertise, and that goes into the inner thing, but I want to hear it from you. Why do so many talented people avoid visibility? Even if they have like, they know who they are, or they know they have strong offers and expertise, but they're like, I don't know if I should put it out there or I should talk about it.
I think there are a couple of things that could be happening here. For example, in Spain, it's a cultural thing, but they don't encourage you to stand out. So
Mhm.
they actually encourage people to do the same thing and do what everybody else is doing. So when you stand out, when you are different, you are left out. You need to stand out in the market from someone else selling the same thing. So that could be one thing. It might be something cultural. Also, if you stand out, you don't belong anymore, maybe to the group. And back in the time, like way back, belonging to a community kept you safe
Mhm.
because you couldn't survive on your own. And our brain doesn't understand that we are safe. We don't need to belong anywhere. We are already good on our own. We are not in threat at the moment. So that's also what's happening. And of course there is the aspect of what happens if I put myself out there and people don't like it, and
Yeah,
people send hate comments or they criticize me, and I'm not able to stand that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And yes, absolutely. It's a judgment and the external validation. What will people say if I post my vulnerable story out there, right? So it's the influence of societal conditioning, but
Mhm.
that's what, that's why I broaden Voices of Impact. I know that's why you're doing this is to have women own their voice, right? And what that means is literally just to put yourself out there, knowing that it's going to impact someone regardless of what they say, right? You're going to have people who might be haters who might not appreciate what you're doing, but you're going to have people who, even if it's that one person
Yeah.
who admires you, right? Like I've had, as soon as I started Voices of Impact, I was like, what are people going to say when they hear this? Like, oh my God, right? But then I was like, yesterday I was on a call and she was like, hey, V, and I listened to an episode. And she was like, I just really resonated with what you guys talked about. I can really relate, right? There was a lot of people who could have loved it, right? So it's really about just taking small steps and making sure that we don't focus on that noise and the influence of others and just go with it and be like, you know what, I have something to say. This is my own voice. And the right people will resonate and understand it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's very important because the reason why I asked this question is because I also had visibility blocks. And this also leads to sales. The more you are thriving and the more sales is really because of that visibility
Hmm.
block. If you're not seen in any kind of community podcast or anything, you can't put yourself out there. They don't know what you're doing, they don't know who you are. And as clients, you're not going to get as much sales. And that was a mistake I made a couple of years ago. Like, I was just like, let me do a little bit of outreach. Let me just kind of go behind the scenes. And that didn't get me anywhere. But the more you put yourself out there and you really unblock those things, it's honestly that you're like a magnet, right? And that's where you get more sales, right? So
Yeah.
going into that, I know you do somatic work a little bit and chakras. So you mentioned about like I know offline you talked about chakras and that helps with like expression, right? So it can stop people if it's blocked from speaking their truth. So which energetic centers do you focus on most for visibility and why is that important?
Mainly, I focus like on the throat chakra and like the root chakra. And it's because your womb space and your throat, they are connected. And they are connected by the vagal nerve. They have a similar embryological origin. So it's very important in a woman to use their voice because it's like the expression of their creative power. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that we work around. Of course, there are other practices that I use, like dancing, to fully connect with your body and how your body expresses. And also, like, I'm EFT certified or like tapping certified with a specific method that is called overflow. So
Mhm.
it doesn't only regulate you, but it lets you like elevate and expand. So it's mainly to release all that energy that you are holding that it's keeping you from using your voice. Obviously it's not something that happens overnight. Normally using your voice takes practice, but the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Hmm. Amazing. Yes, and I've tried EFT like once and it helped, right? But I wanted to kind of do more. And I think in different areas, I saw something about EFT, like money and how, like, when you
Yeah.
tap it, it helps, right? You kind of, and also just saying these affirmations. So I love how you talked about like practices because that's very important. And going into the energetic work, even for throat chakra, like I didn't know much. Right? I was new to this. So I know that like women, we high achieving women, we tend to look at things at a logical level, but talking what Bea said is about going into our body and really understanding that these really like work, right? These really help to open up your creative power and really speak your truth. It doesn't have to be just verbally, like on a podcast, but even to write content, right?
Yeah.
So really go within and be like, what is my story that I want to share today? And speak the truth. Yeah, some people are not going to like it, but some people will, right? Your people will, and they will see that and they're like, hey, it resonated.
Yeah.
And it's very important for visibility. And some things I want to say that I felt like that I knew it was a block is like, it was coarse, right? I would always feel weird in my throat. So you would know there's something that's
Mm.
blocked there. And obviously right now it's not as blocked. So I'm speaking the more you have to kind of practice it, the more, like you said, it expands. So you just really have to feel into it. So going into my next question, so doing the energetic work, how do you measure or know that, like, okay, I've done this, but how does it translate into business results, like higher conversions or bigger offers, right? Or more sales, like in a month, for example?
I think the first thing that changes is the way that you are showing up. Like before
Mhm.
the sales, before the clients, like you feel in the person, like the energy has changed and there is something like in their face when they are showing up and recording themselves. And I've seen that another thing that changes is that they take more action because they feel like more aligned, more confident. So they put themselves in more uncomfortable situations and they reach out to opportunities instead of waiting for them. So, of course, that turns into like better clients, more conversions, because all of a sudden everyone wants to do what you're doing and everyone wants to be in your energy and move the same way that you do. That can happen in a month or it might take longer, but the first things that you see is how the person has shifted and how she's moving and the things that she's doing that are different.
Amazing. Absolutely. And I love how you talked about like just taking action and showing up. It's that energy, it's that presence. You're not as like hesitant anymore. And these are things that also my coach said because, like, all of us were in that place. We would always be hesitant to charge something or I say, like, hey, my program is 10K. But when you do the nervous system regulation, and I know like this is a different kind of like a direction, but of course, expanding your capacity is why it's important to do these energetics. So the more you do energetics, you expand your capacity to hold more money. So, for example, if you start out with a 2K offer and you want to go for 10K offers, right? It's that capacity difference. A lot of people think it's like logically and putting the maths and the
Mm.
numbers, which of course it's, yes, you do need to have your goal, but I realized that magnetic presence and more clients and more money really comes from expanding that capacity. So the energetics piece is the most important here to
Yeah.
get that, right? So absolutely. Going into feminine sales. Okay. So you describe feminine sales as more like story led. And what are the core differences between feminine and traditional masculine sales approaches? Just to kind of share with the audience what that looks like and feels like.
Okay, for me, and having been 15 years in like face to face sales, the main difference is that we have bigger ability to actually listen to the client, to what the client is saying, the objections, what's hiding underneath. So that actually gives you an advantage because you're probably seeing what's going on in that person's mind and you might be finding like other opportunities to sell something, maybe not that program, but another program. Also, another difference is that I think women, we tend to do more like a consulting sales based on
Mhm.
advice and what fits best for that person. And because we are highly intuitive, we can use that also to our advantage. And the last thing probably is that I think we can have like bigger resilience and be more detached about it. So if you are able to not making it mean anything about you, if someone says no or not right now, or maybe I need something different, and you are like, okay, fine. I'm just here to advise you and offer you the best. That's a really like grounded energy to sell from.
Mm-hmm. Percent. And I love what you just said is like that detached place is being more present because that's what feminine energy is about. So we're so focused on like, are they going to say yes or no? Right. And rather than like not knowing, like, even if they say a no, it's okay. Right. But not letting it show in your face or in your, what you speak or what you say. Like you said, that grounded energy is like what really makes them be like, hey, maybe I need to work with them. It's just kind of those cues and that body language that makes a difference. Because I had a mentor who was a little bit more in the masculine sales, and he was great, but it was always like pushing, like, did you get the 10K? It was numbers, it was data, like volume. And it just didn't align. As a woman, it was like, no, something didn't align in my body. It felt really performance and pressure. And I didn't get the client, I didn't get the sales, and I showed up very nervous, right? But then now, like with feminine, I'm like, hey, to your point, that empathy, right? Of course, you want to make sure you set the boundaries and you're strong in your power, and not charge less than your worth. So you have that masculine piece, but also combined with empathy and being like, hey, let me meet you where you're at right now. If it's a no, that's totally fine. Happy to nurture you. What do you need at this point, right? So really understanding their pain points. And also I did notice having a community. Like a lot of people just trust is very low. So building that trust first with community and collaboration. So the fact that like a lot of people have come to me immediately, they're like, hey, so is this a pay to play kind of a thing, business model, right? It's that trust is so low. And when you come from that energy of genuine, or someone said, hey, I'm happy to get on a call with you because it was your energy that was like, I knew this is genuine, right?
Yeah.
So energy, presence, and just deeply serving and letting go of like any kind of I need energy or scarcity mindset or energy, right? And this is just a question that, in addition, but what would you like advise to like a woman or anyone if they're like, yeah, I do want to be like that with the detached energy, but I do have bills to pay, or I don't have enough money to think about, I'm still in survival mode. Like, what are some tips that you can kind of give them?
Well, first, I'm going to say I understand that feeling like completely, because at the beginning of my business, I felt like that, but it got me like nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's true that you want to be in a position in which your nervous system is not collapsing because you have bills to pay and you are in a critic situation. But I think you need to have the deep trust that you're going to figure it out and you're going to make it work. And there are some things like you need to know, to make money, you need to invest money, for example. So it would be amazing to figure everything out ourselves, but we pay mentors because we want to get there faster, for example. So that's something that the more you get used to it, the easier it is for you to invest. And actually, your body learns when you see an amount. Okay, this coach is like 5K, 8K. It doesn't surprise you anymore. So it doesn't send you into a spiral. And then I mean, if you need to like pay bills, maybe if your business is not working, it would be like a good thing to do to find like a part-time job or something so you can keep going. But being desperate is not going to help you because people can sense that like from a mile away. And the moment you start being like really pushy about it, or it's not going to work. On the other hand, I'm going to say that the internet makes you believe that people are just going to find you because of your content. And maybe that's not happening. And there are moments in which you need to like put your ego at the side and actually go and reach out to people, like be genuine but you need to interact with people, go to networking events, participate in networking communities, and don't be scared to, from a really genuine place, DM someone like, hey, how are you doing? I'm doing this free stuff and I think it would be beneficial for you. And that's it. And the more people say no to you, the more detached you are going to be about it. People post the income that they have, but they don't tell you how many times someone said no to them before they actually got the first 10K client. So we need to be very realistic about that and know that not everything that we see on the internet is actually the truth.
Right, absolutely, 100%. Right? Everyone's just saying the same thing, and that's why we're having this conversation that these are real tips and strategies that actually work. And I do agree, right? A lot of people just post the money, but they don't understand like there are a lot of no's, right? And my mentor told me this. He's like, "Hey, Vina, like if someone says no, that's okay." Right? However many no's, the yeses are in the lands of no's, right? There's going to be one person the yes, but you need to put yourself out there. I love the fact that you said about being feminine and really have that magnetic presence, but balancing it out with like actually reach out, right? And it's okay to reach out, but knowing where to balance, because I know some people are like, hey, like, I don't know how true this is. I'm not sure, but some people are like, hey, I posted content and I got like 10K clients from it, which maybe it works, but I do feel like you have to put yourself out there and DM them and be like, hey, there's a free lead magnet, there's a free thing that I think this would really help you. And, have a conversation with them and build that trust, right? So,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm sure it's true that they got those clients, but probably they got those clients because they are already a pretty big or established brand.
Right.
If you are new to the market, if you have been in business not that long and you have like no business experience, no sales experience, it's going to be, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it's going to be very hard that just no one knows you and you're going to sign a 10K.
Exactly. Yeah, I think content, yeah, like I said, it depends. But if you're charging like 10K and you really want your premium, right? It takes time, right? And content is one thing, like, hey, I resonate to build awareness, but it's also like really getting to know them and the pain points and having those conversations is really key. And just having those in the DMs and giving them what they need is where it starts from. So absolutely. And this is a question that I have. If you can you share a framework or a ritual that you use to help clients step into higher ticket offers with more ease? And for example, if someone wants like, hey, I want 2 10K clients next month. My goal is 20K, but I'm struggling to get that. And I want to do it with the feminine sales process. What would you say to them? Is there like a framework or something that they can do? Like, how do you get that consistent revenue using this feminine sales approach?
Well, one of the things that we need to be super sure about it is that are you really aligned with that 10K offer? Like, is it
Hmm.
from your son of genius or is it you just create it because it's supposed to sell? Because if you are not fully on board with it, it's going to be harder to sell. And then do you feel worth it of actually selling that offer and having a client pay you 10K? Because if you don't feel worth it of it, it's also going to be hard about it. And then we need to have a look at what have you been doing? How big is your community? Like how big is your visibility? What outreach activities you are doing? Like maybe at the point that you are in, selling just one take 10K offer is not realistic. So it's a little bit more complex than that just saying, okay, just go and sell. Of course, you need to be selling the offer no matter what. And if you don't get the 2 clients, just keep on going because maybe you're going to get 4 the next month. So you need to keep showing up even though you don't get the sales, of course. But there are a few things that go into place that is not as simple as just like, okay, one thing that we need to look at. But there is a lot of like mindset involved in this, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, it looks easy on the outside because I had some people who are like, hey, I just got something and they write content, like you said, don't really believe everything that's online, but you do have to have a framework and a set process. So, yes, like there's the feminine energy part of the presence, but you also need the masculine structure
Yeah.
and the processes. So looking at, like, we talked about lead gen process, your community. And I love how you said, do you feel worth charging? Because, there are times where a lot of people are like, hey, I'm not getting the 10K. Maybe the strategy is wrong. But even though you look at the strategy, it's really about, what do you believe? Do you believe you're worth 10K? Do you believe that this offer is worth 10K? Because if you don't believe it within yourself, you're not going to get that client. It's going to show up, right, in the energy and the presence. So it's all within that. So you have to do the identity and the energetic work before you even start. Like, hey, let me reach out to them. Let me bring them into the community. And
Yeah.
I think, for both of us, especially for me, that's true in the past couple of months. That's what, all of us have been doing. Is it's a never ending thing, even when we're talking right now. To get the consistency and sustainability, it starts from those two things. It's not from strategy as much. And a lot of people online were like, hey, it's really strategy focused, a lot on that, like 80% on that, but it's really more like 60-70% on the identity piece, right? So really focus on, do you truly believe it? If you can't, that's fine. Start small, right? Start from like 2K and then increase it to 5K and then 10K. But you need to expand that capacity. And this is one thing that I did when I went shopping the other day. I was so like, okay, maybe I'm just worth $20 dress, right? And that's how I was used to, because my family was like that. Like, okay, let's just buy something for $20. But now, like, I'm worth more, and I'm like, hey, like, no, like, I deserve to get an $80 dress. I deserve this. I've been working hard, right? So I expanded my capacity, and now my brain, it's like, it's easy for me to just spend $80 on something, right? And not have to be like, I don't feel guilty. So having these practices, like going into the mall, going into some store, and really being like, hey, can I get out of my comfort zone and pay more for this that I usually don't, because I believe I deserve it. I believe I'm worth it, right? So
Yeah.
it comes from within. And absolutely, I know you talked about, you have an attention framework. I know that's your framework. So what are its pillars, and how does it shift someone's magnetic presence?
Basically, the attention framework is a little bit what we've been talking about. Is like the inner attention, so working on everything that's going on the inside, your identity, your mindset, like all the somatic practices, so you feel safe being seen and you feel safe using your voice. And then we bring that, and that's kind of like the second layer. We bring that into your content, into the way that you show up, your brand, your offer, so everything is like very aligned and you're showing up fully expressed and as yourself. And then the last piece is like your attention led sales. That's how I call it. It's like once we've created that kind of visibility and you start becoming top of mind, that's what's going to create more conversions. And we need to increase like the sales pathway, so there are more points of connections in which people can actually buy from you. Because this is something I've learned, like we see offers as like your staircase ladder normally, and that's just like one pathway for people to get into your world. But if you see your offers as like a spider web, there are different points of connection that can go to your main offer. So we need to increase the ways, like the touch points in which someone can be in contact with your work. It could be like a Google Doc as a lead magnet. It could be as one YouTube video or a private episode from a podcast or something. Like there are different ways that we can create that is a full like ecosystem. So you increase your sales, and those are business assets that you can just create once and they would be useful like in the long run.
Absolutely. I love this. I love your framework, and how it just kind of, like you said, the touch points. I love how you talked about the spider web, because that is very, very true. Because we think, like, for especially higher ticket offers, immediately let's just go into strategy session and let's go from there. But it's really about bringing them into your world first. It could just be a simple lead magnet, like you said. I'm realizing community makes a huge difference. And I've learned this, like, a lot of people start out with, even though we start with higher ticket, it's okay to start with like lower and going from there. And also, when we look at about money, it's not just income, it's also about generational wealth when you talked about the long
Mm-hmm.
term. So, what does generational wealth mean? It's different income streams. We diversify those income streams. So, we think like, oh, we didn't have that high ticket offer doesn't mean we're not good business owners or we're not profitable. Well, you can also be profitable with passive income streams. So, maybe that lead magnet or template could be a good one. Maybe like, having a community that's different tiers, like a membership that goes into upselling for a one-on-one offer, right? So, like you said, looking at different ways and different touch points and knowing that it's okay. And it's okay to go slow, right? To get to that 10K offer, right? It's not going to just happen immediately, which obviously that's what I thought, right? In the beginning, as a founder, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can just do 10K and it's easy. But having that ecosystem, bringing people, they want them to be your fans. Like you want them to be admirers of your work and support you. And then just naturally they'll buy your program, right? So you want to start from there, that you want to deeply serve. Absolutely. And using your program and your framework. So what are the most common transformations your clients report after working with you for 3 to 6 months?
The main clients that I work right now, well, there's like a combination of them, but a lot of them, they already have like lots of strategy and they already know how to create content. For example, they have a couple of offers. So it's really like working on that like identity piece and being fully themselves. So it's like bringing that to muchness that they have really outside on their brand so they can stand out and they are not saying the same thing as everybody else, and optimizing those sales pathways. And of course, it depends, like if they are someone that they do discovery calls or something like that, because that's the way that they filter clients. We can practice that. If they only sell on the DMs, we can practice that. So it's very like targeted to how they are selling so that they can build those skills that they will have like forever, actually.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love how you see the transformations. It starts with the energetics and it goes from there with the sales path. So absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's so funny because I'm such a strategic person and I used to be all the strategy and skills and frameworks, and now I see how important it is, like the identity and the mindset thing. And I mean, if you had talked to me like a year ago, I would be like, no, skills and frameworks and
Yeah.
strategy. And now it feels like I went to the other side, but I like to do a mix of both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was the exact same way. And I'm like, oh my God, like, and I'm talking to a lot of the high achievers because type A high achievers were so focused on frameworks and all of that. But it's harder, right? It's harder. And I also want to say about someone told me that, hey, you could get paid to exist. And I didn't know what that meant because I was so used to like, you have to work so hard to get money. I come from a very like woman of color background, let's just work so hard and grind and hustle. And then when you go and take this feminine sales, I'm not like, to BS point, it's not like we're completely getting rid of strategy, right?
No.
But the ratio is more feminine, the energy piece and then a little bit of strategy. And it's so much easier. I'm not going to lie to everyone who's listening, the entrepreneurs, like there's so much of ease. There's more capacity. You just feel more joyful when you do it this way. And you don't have to work hard and hustle. And then I'm realizing, like, oh, wow, like you can actually get paid to exist, right? Just
Yeah.
by being yourself. That's what it means. It's really just your energy, your presence, being passionate about what you do and serving your purpose. And when people feel that genuine, the fact that she truly wants to just make an impact, and
Yeah.
then you put the strategy piece, it's like, oh my God, like I didn't realize I could get this consistent income, right? So I think that's also the next question I have is for those who have a type A background, like both of us are, a lot of high achievers. What's one habit to adopt to make their presence feel more magnetic and like less transactional, less like scarcity energy, because I know as go-getters, we have that.
I would just tell them to challenge themselves to show up like less polished, less curated, like make mistakes, forget about the perfect words, just try to show up like you show up to your family meetings or with your friends. Like It's called social media because people like to be social. So if you're very type A, I think you need to start practicing the art of releasing control a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We can relate to all of this. It's a lesson learned, and I'm sure a lot of people can resonate listening to this is letting go and like you said, letting control and just, perfectionism. Because everyone I talk to, and this is something I'm also guilty of, is like we have perfectionism. Everything needs to be perfect. But like showing up as yourself and your flaws and being vulnerable about it. And that's what this Voices of Impact was about is some people came on here, some corporate people, they're like, do I need to say the right thing or whatever? And I'm just like, be yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
that's immediately like the high achiever executive people. They're like, oh, I need to perform. We're used to it. So to your point, just kind of slowing down, doing more of these slowing down feminine energy practices and like, hey, it's okay to make a mistake. In one podcast episode, I said the wrong thing, which I was like, hey, no worries. Like, had fun with it. Like, have fun with
Yeah.
everything, right? And just be yourself and get into that feeling. You'll realize, like, oh my God, life is so much easier. You don't have to like rush into anything, and it's more fun. And the more fun you're having in life as a woman, you just attract the opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So I shifted niches from career to executive coaching to this soul aligned business coaching, and within 3 months, and I've attracted like a huge team, a lot of opportunities, a lot of collaborators just by having fun with it. And it's very different from what we're used to as a type A person. But when you just let loose just a tad bit, it makes a difference, right? So I love that answer.
Yeah. In my case, it's so funny because I'm kind of type A in my brain, but I'm very type B in execution. So
Hmm.
that's probably why I was like a weird salesperson, and I was always like not really fully aligning with corporate rules and things like that because I was like very messy in terms of execution. But that's how I thrive. Like now in my business, I'm taking a lot of like messy action and it's going
Yeah,
better than ever for me. And it might seem like I'm working more, but because I'm more aligned with it and it feels so
exactly.
good, it actually, instead of draining me, it fuels me, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And I felt the same way. Like even now, for example, when I talk to people, they're like, Vina, like, aren't you burnt out? You're doing so much. And to your point, I'm just in alignment. When you're in flow and when you're in alignment and it's like the right thing for you, like you're just doing your zone of genius. Like for me, it's podcasting. For some people, it might be just writing, right? It
Yeah.
depends on what it is. It energizes you. So you're not as burnt out, even though it looks like you're doing more work. It's just like you feel fulfilled. You
Yeah.
have the capacity, right? The capacity has expanded. So to your point, that's a huge point that I want to focus on, that you're absolutely right. Like it's more about what's truly aligned to you. Podcasting doesn't work for everyone. Conversations one-on-one works for me because I go on like a couple of meetings a day, but they're energizing meetings. And one other woman who I talked to, she was like, Bean, I hate these one-on-one meetings. It depends on what works for you. But if it does align to your point, it's
Mm.
not, it seems like it's work, but it's not. So
Yeah, it's true.
absolutely. Love these questions, love these answers and the conversation. So what's next for you, Bia? Any new programs, initiatives you're calling in?
Yeah, well, I'm really focusing a lot on like my own speaker career kind of thing because I think talking is like my mission in this world, to be honest. And I'm doing a lot of podcast guesting. I'm like looking for summit opportunities and paid speaking opportunities. So a lot of my time is focusing on that, like being totally honest. But I do really want to launch like fairly soon a group program, which will probably would be like my longer, like midterm or long term mastermind to go through this attention method. And probably one of the things that we will work a lot in that program, it would be like getting visible. So this is for women that they want to use either podcasting or speaking opportunities and like using their voice on social media in every way possible. So that I need to define that a little bit more, but exciting things.
Love this. So excited for you. I hope things go really well. And
Yeah.
it will, right? So I love your energy, your presence. So I just hope a lot more things are more aligned, you're attracting a lot of opportunities. So happy. And a lot of speaking is very important. So there's just like so many podcasts and networking that they're looking for guests similar to
Yeah.
you. So to everyone who's listening, really put yourself out there because they need to hear your voice and a lot of people can resonate. So thank you for sharing that. And
Thank
going
you.
into the fun rapid fire round now. So quick, like just kind of quick answers. Okay, let's see. Your go-to song when you want to feel powerful.
Oh, wow. I have a lot, but I do listen a lot to Dua Lipa, Physical.
Yes. Love Dua Lipa. She's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like so many like artists. So mine's like Unstoppable and all of that. Like, Beyonce has like great ones as well. So love that. Let's see. Heels or sneakers when you want to feel confident?
I used to wear a lot of heels, but now I don't stand them anymore. So I wear sneakers.
Nice. I actually think I'm the other way around. Heels. I mean, I'm trying not to wear too many heels, but I love how you said the sneakers. Yeah, just kind of be yourself. If it
Yeah.
makes you feel confident, why not? Right. So amazing. Okay. So a phrase you're no longer available for.
Phrase I'm not longer available for. I don't know. My mind went blank with this one. I guess I could say I'm not available for keeping quiet.
Yeah, absolutely. No shrinking.
Yeah,
Or
like
like,
in Spanish, my grandma used to say, calladita estás más bonita. So it's like something old people say, like the quiet, like the more quiet you are, the prettier you look. And
mhm, mhm.
obviously, I'm not for that.
I was that, I think we were like that, right? But now it's like, nope, I can't, like, to your point, like, if you'd want me to, like, stay quiet and just be, like, the good girl, it's not gonna work, right? And it's okay to be outspoken if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm not for everyone, right? I'm
Yeah.
not everyone's cup of tea, so awesome. And if your voice had a personality, what would it be?
My voice had a personality. Wonder Woman.
Hmm. Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that. Even her content. Everyone who follows Bea, like, I love her content. She's just like that bold, like unapologetic and everything. So that Wonder Woman. So I love that. It's amazing. Awesome. So Bea, this is such a powerful and activating conversation. Like, I just absolutely
I
love
know.
this. And what I love most is a reminder that sales isn't becoming someone else. It's not
No.
about pressuring. It's not performance. It's about becoming more of who you already are, right? Stop shrinking and stop filtering and stop trying to fit into what they think they should be. Everything shifts. And tell me, I know I've been through this and so has Bea, right? So your presence changes, your confidence deepens, and your ability to create impact and income really expands. It really works. So for everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, I invite you to reflect on where you might still be holding back your voice, right? And what becomes possible when you choose to fully express it. So follow Bea on Instagram. She's
Yeah.
awesome. And follow her. She has some great stuff that she's doing right now with the sales feminine and all of that. So please follow her. And as we continue building these conversations on Voices of Impact, I'm also opening the door in mid-May to June to something bigger called Sovereign Rise, a space for leaders, creators, and visionaries who are already ready to build, lead, and express from a place of deep alignment and truth. So you're ready to go to the next level and be your higher self and unapologetic self, right? So if you feel called to be either a community builder, a collaborator, founding sister, this is also for men as well, or anything, if this is your invitation. So until next time, thank you so much, Bea, for your
Thank
wonderful
you.
presence and beautiful insights. I know this is going to be super helpful for everyone. But until next time, keep showing up, keep speaking your truth, and keep leading in a way that feels fully you. Right. And thank you for being part of Voices of Impact.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing.